What happens when you plead guilty to a crime? What is that process like? What all will you have to do? I'll talk about that. That's a big decision, to plead guilty. If you've been accused of a crime and you've gone through the process of maybe you got arrested and bonded out of jail, you've gone to court, you've gotten an attorney, and maybe you've had a couple of court dates and you've met with your lawyer and gone over the evidence, and you've decided with the advice of your attorney to plead guilty to this charge. That's a big deal, even on a minor crime. It's not something that you do lightly. It's not something that you should do alone. You should get the assistance and the advice of an attorney if you're going to make this decision. So what happens? What is it like to go through that process? If you've gotten to the point, this is what I tell clients, if you've gotten to the point where you're pleading guilty, then I've decided, in my legal professional opinion, that there is enough proof here. There is enough proof to convict you of the charge, or maybe it's a lesser charge. Maybe we can get it broken down to a lesser charge, less punishment. But they've got enough proof, so we're not going to go to trial. And it's no secret that overwhelming majority of cases in the criminal justice system settle by a plea, some kind of plea. Very few cases go to trial. Very few go to trial. So if I've decided that there's enough proof that the government can convict you and we strike a deal, and how do we go through that process? It really depends a lot on the type of charge. Pleading guilty to a traffic ticket is not the same as pleading guilty to a DUI, and that's not the same as pleading guilty to, say, tax evasion or possessing and distributing large amount of narcotics. So it depends a lot on the charge itself, on the severity. More serious crimes are going to carry more punishment. Well, when you plead guilty to something, and if it is something like a DUI, let's say, that's a pretty common offense for people to plead to, a DUI, or some kind of misdemeanor on that level, or maybe even a lower level felony type of case. You're giving up certain rights when you do that. All that stuff in the Constitution, that you have rights. You have the right to a jury trial. Okay, you have the right to confront and cross-examine the witnesses against you. That's my job as your attorney, cross-examine adverse witnesses, see if they're lying or if their stories aren't adding up. That's part of the jury process. Letting a jury decide your fate. You have the right to an appeal. You have the right, obviously you have the right, you're presumed innocent all the way through, and you have the right not to incriminate yourself, which means you have the right to basically keep your mouth shut. You don't have to prove a thing. They, the government, have to prove everything, all the elements of that offense against you. You can keep your mouth shut, okay? When you plead guilty, you give up all those rights, all of them. There will be no trial. I won't be up there doing my lawyer thing, cross-examining the witnesses, making arguments to the jury. You will not sit there and keep your mouth shut. You will tell the judge, yes, I'm guilty of this offense. You have to say that. You have to say that. Some judges will tell you during the plea hearing, they will ask you, tell me what you did wrong, or tell me what you did here to break the law. And you have to say to the judge and be completely honest. Okay, so it's a lot to go through. You have to understand those rights that you're giving up. Now, what happens, what are the consequences of a guilty plea? Again, it depends on the charge. Now, sometimes if it's a DUI here in Tennessee, even a first offense DUI, you're looking at mandatory jail time, and it's going to be a permanent conviction on your record. Okay, it will follow you around. I tell clients that. It depends on the charge, and it depends on the jurisdiction. But there could be lasting consequences, lifetime consequences. So you have to know those. You have to know what's going to happen, after you walk out of that courtroom, and not just in the next few days, but think about years, possibly the rest of your life. This is going to follow you around. Okay, it could. Now, sometimes a guilty plea requires less If you're pleading, but if you've worked out some sort of diversion program or non-adjudication program where you're pleading guilty, but you're not being found guilty, and after a period of time, this can be dismissed. Those are nice. If you can work that out, depends on the charge, depends on which court you're in, depends on what I can do as your attorney. The main thing to keep in mind here is that if you're facing a criminal charge and you're thinking about, gosh, maybe I should plead guilty to it. I mean, you need to know what's going on. You need competent professional advice. You need to call me and tell me about your case, and then we'll see. But those are the things you got to be there in court and tell the judge, in your own words, what you did. You got to know what rights you're giving up. And those are things that we can discuss. Those are things that we can discuss as your case evolves, as we look at the evidence. But it is a big deal. It is a big deal. If you've just been charged with a crime, the best thing to do is call me, and I can give you some options because it really depends on your charge. But a lot of cases do settle by a guilty plea. I tell clients up front, that may happen. I'm not telling you have to plead guilty because I may not know enough at the beginning, but that's where a lot of cases head. And if you're thinking that's where yours is going to head, just talk to me, and I can narrow it down for you and give you options and maybe some likely outcomes. Thanks for watching.